Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, aka the guy who's like a Hydra agent because I always aim for the sky. The daisy. Anyway, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is back with its second episode of Season 7, and the time-travelling adventure has a lot to unpack from it. Throughout this video, we're going to be breaking down the latest entry, discussing what's going on, and giving our theories for the future. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the show yet, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. Please drop a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and make sure you subscribe for breakdowns on the season week by week. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7 Episode 2. Okay, so we open in the midst of last week's events. In case you missed it, the Chronicoms are trying to wipe out S.H.I.E.L.D. and they realise that the best way to do that is to in fact destroy Hydra, so therefore they would never need to be created. Their target is Wilfred Malick, the father of Gideon Malick, who we learned was the head of the organisation earlier in the series. Malick was instrumental to some of the events in the Avengers and even helped to give the go-ahead to Nuke New York. So, not the best guy, but they have to save Hydra in order to save S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a moral quandary, see? And we in the 30s, so I gotta do this, see? The episode opens with Mac and Deke pretending to be bootleggers so that Fred doesn't get onto the time travel thing, and little do they know that he has the serum that will help to return the power that he and his family lost. Aboard the Zephyr, May has returned to the hibernation chamber, and she's getting flashbacks of the season 6 finale in which she died fighting the forces of Izal. May actually doesn't remember her own death, and as I said last week, I have a feeling that she might actually be possessed by either Izal or one of her allies, and though we don't get confirmation of this in the episode, it just seems so obvious at this point. She fights Enoch and even manages to keep up with him at Hunter Killer Roboto Terminator 2 Judgment Day level, so with all that's going on, it does seem quite obvious. A normal person would be laid up in bed, but May healed really fast, which could be seen as similar to how Sarge was killed last season and then he came back to life. She also asks how far away from home they are, and the delivery of this line, coupled with her saying she's hungry, it just seemed off to me. A big revelation doesn't surprise her as much as it should, and we'll get into this later, but obviously leave your comments below and whether you agree with the Izal theory or not. Back at the speakeasy, Coulson and Daisy are trying to heal up the mysterious lady in red from last week. Apologies for our previous breakdown, as we thought that she died, but here she is indeed alive and kicking. After Yo-Yo and Simmons show up, we get a nice little Star Trek nod in which the latter says she's a doctor and not a dame. The character Bones used to do a play on this ever so often in the show, and if you look up the line, there's some really hilarious ones, including, "I'm a doctor, not a moon shuttle conductor." So yeah, I did appreciate the little line here. She manages to remove the bullet and puts it in a shot. Nice little gun wordplay there. And Daisy suggests taking out Malick. Coulson shoots down this idea, saying that in doing so they would vastly change the future, and thus they decide to go ahead with saving him. Now there's a lot of back and forth over what the right path to take is, and Daisy actually does something very out of character towards the end. Speaking of out of character, I've noticed a lot of Simmons Is An LMD fan theories floating around online recently. This is due to her newfound impulsiveness, forcing the agents to travel through time on a whim, and just her general attitude. Screen Rant did a big article on this, and whilst I don't want to go over the entire thing, there are some notable points that they dropped. Last week, Simmons refused to tell Daisy how much time had passed for her, and we know they've been there a while, and this would explain how Fitz and Simmons perfected so much anti-Chronicom technology. Just how long that is, we don't know yet, but in order to appear the same, Simmons would need to have created an LMD in order to not give anything away from her physical appearance. Fitz knows that the Chronicoms can read minds, and thus it is possible that the pair created LMD versions, which would mean, should they be captured, they'd be unable to find the real versions. Hell, this Simmons doesn't even really know where Fitz is, so yeah, some definite evidence that adds weight to it being the truth. Personally, I'm still unsure, as I think her personality changes, they just kind of show how far the character has come. She's been through a lot with the group and without them, so this has likely altered how she is. It's all kind of still up in the air, but yeah, either one is definitely a possibility. Elsewhere, Freddy wants to hitch a ride aboard a train, and the Chronicops show up at the speakeasy while Koenig tries to fend them off using his charm. Also, I noticed a Greyhound painting, which was a nice little prop that hinted towards the bootlegging. Greyhounds are of course dogs that are fast runners and are often used in gambling, so this has slowly become a symbol of smuggling. There's also an image of an old ship, which too is never mind, I'm spending far too much time on this. Anyway, the lady in the red dress wakes up, and though questioning leads nowhere, Simmons, who's a biochemist and not a bird, deduces that she delivered the super soldier serum that would eventually create the Red Skull. Erskine is also name dropped, and you might remember him from the first Avenger. Simmons notices that something's off with the fluid just by looking at it. Again, so it does kind of make the LMD theory seem slightly more legitimate. On the train, Freddy talks about his past, in which he pretty much lost both his parents after the Great Depression. His father jumped off a building, and his mother became a vegetable due to grief. Freddy did what he had to survive, and this led to him smuggling the super soldier serum. He also gets a really good look at Deke's radio, and clearly knowledge of how technology is heading towards helps him to start reshape the world in the future. He pulls a gun on the pair as the two start asking too many questions, and throughout this episode you can slowly see him turning to the dark side. Back on board the Zephyr, May dukes it out with Enoch, and she's only stopped from killing him by the appearance of Coulson. This should come as a real gut punch to her, but she doesn't even flinch, hinting at what's really going on with the character. Koenig is also shown the inside of the ship, which could add reason to why his offspring eventually end up working so high within S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson pretty much gives him the entire 411 on everything, and thus he would likely steer his children towards this. In some ways he was a father figure to Freddy, who would eventually go on to build Hydra, so perhaps he raised his own grandchildren to counter this action. Freddy, Deke and Mac arrive at the drop-off point, and Daisy instructs Deke to kill him. Again, this is completely out of character for her, and it seems like she's just oblivious to how badly this would mess up the time stream. Even in Avengers Endgame, after fudging things up, Cap realised that it was paramount to keep things the way that they were, and he returned everything to its correct place, except for himself. I really have to ding the episode for this, as it just seems like Daisy is not seeing the bigger picture. I think that she would actually be one of the people who would know protecting him was of the utmost importance. Luckily, before Deke can do it, the Chronicoms arrive, and then Coulson and co show up and drive by motherfudder. I can't swear because it's YouTube and I need that cash money, you know how it is. Anyway, the shootout is a great way to end the episode, and what is likely a final time for our heroes in the 30s. Freddy bails and Koenig and Enoch go on the hunt for him whilst the time window closes. Freddy actually shoots Koenig, which shows how far down the dark path he's willing to go. I love that Koenig says he just stepped off a building as he leaves, which is of course how his father died. So, metaphorically, the good Freddy died in order to create Hydra. They weren't really saving him, they were pushing him towards a darker path, and yeah, it's nice how the subtext of the show kind of tackles with this moral ambiguity. The time jump has to be carried out, and Enoch is left behind in the 30s, and whilst this does seem like it may be the end for the character, I actually think that we will see him again. He's left a 10 bar at the speakeasy in the post-credits scene, and thus he will likely spend time helping Koenig to get up to speed with the way the world eventually turns, whilst taking the long way round to get back to the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The speakeasy was of course famous in the SSR, and we get a Casablanca-esque close to the scene with Koenig stating that this looks like it's going to be the start of a marvellous friendship. As for the next time, the agents are heading to the 50s, namely Area 51, where they'll meet with Sousa from Agent Carter. Carter and Sousa had a sort of fling, but she just couldn't get that star-spangled man with a plan out of her head, so who knows, he might even end up with Daisy. I think it's going to be a great episode either way, and I'm really on board with how the season's been so far. I know we're only 2 episodes in, so it's a bit hard to judge, but yeah, so far, other than the Daisy thing, I'm actually quite enjoying it. Now obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the second episode, so make sure you comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a thumbs up, and if you missed our analysis of the first episode, then make sure you check it out after this. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at Heavy Spoilers or click the Discord link in the description below. Every month we give away free movies to people who subscribe to the channel, and this month you can win the Marvel Phase 3 Part 2 box set, and all you have to do is comment on a video and make sure you subscribe with notifications on. The more videos you comment on, the more you have a chance of winning, so make sure you get involved. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 15th of June, and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. This is a channel for people who are super into superheroes, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.